It's about to get heavy. I'm talking in your face. Ain't no holding back. Better watch out. Gloves are coming off, baby. Ha! Yeah, that digger needs a throat punch. Jesus, please move on somebody. Lord, he needs some prayer. Bless his heart. You know, nowadays, people care more about themselves and their kingdom than they ever cared about God and His. Can I get an amen? Why don't you step into my shoes, buckle up in my chair, and sit behind my desk for a day? We're about to get started, so grab some popcorn. It's time for Behind the Desk with me, your boy, Pastor J. Kelly. Let's get ready to roll, y'all. But before we get started, give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo! Alright, folks, welcome to episode number 4. Hopefully I didn't lose you on episode 2 or 3. And still rocking the PFG hat and the Target brand C9 shirt. No, they don't sponsor my podcast, but if they want to, I'll have a conversation with them. You know, I'm trying to be relatable and share struggles and hard times with y'all, and being the realest guy that I can be. Only one more of these to go for now. There may be other issues that arise that I'd want to do a one-off podcast about that come up in church in general. I want to be flexible with whatever direction the Lord leads this thing. I just want to be a willing vessel. But your boy needs to be real with my listeners. I messed up. I got my kid a Starbucks to split with me one day, and now the kiddo wants one any time that we're in a Target that has a Starbucks. Look, folks, they need to rename that place. They should rename it. I don't know. They should call it $5 or $6. I had to ask for some of these for Christmas. Just to support her habit. So there's my funny for the episode. So let's put this puppy in overdrive and push through this last negative yet learning experience. So y'all buckle up and hey, let's go. So this church is a church of pretty good size. It was I'll be honest, it was a big church. Now, I'm not talking like thousands of members or anything, but I'm talking a good 350, 400. Maybe if everybody on roll showed up, we were looking at 550, maybe 6. So pretty good sized church. Had a preschool and daycare in a separate building on campus, where the kind of like the main church secretary offices and stuff were. The pastors, we had offices inside the church, so that we were separate from them, which honestly was kind of weird, because then again, that goes all back to that lack of communication stuff that I talked about earlier in podcasts and stuff. But my mentor even came to preach for a men's Sunday. They have a men's Sunday evening service, so he came up to preach for that. Short notice. Lack of communication. Nobody got a guest speaker, so just so happened I was reached up to my mentor and said, "Hey, can you be here?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm preaching somewhere else, but I'll leave there and come straight up there." And when he got there, he said that he was surprised that I had landed where I was. So all that stuff was kind of cool, but little did either one of us know all the cock and bull that was in store for me here, for my family here. So it was really aggravating because the pastor was never there. Never got to see him. There wasn't a whole lot of talking. There wasn't a whole lot of guidance. There wasn't a whole lot of communication. So that was a huge issue. And what little communication there was had to do with the fact that the church was on TV. So sermons had to be edited and prepped and gotten ready to send off to the television station, and that was generally the only time that I saw the pastor. So how are you going to grow? How are you going to be a team? How are you going to communicate when they're never there? There was a couple times where I was able to catch him and get his advice. Some advice was decent. Some advice was, I don't know, it was kind of weird. Like sometimes it did make sense. It seemed maybe kind of harsh, but it would make sense. Because I was told, there were people in the church that as long as they didn't speak to him and he didn't speak to them, everything was fine. And I'm sitting there thinking, why in the world do you want to keep goats here? That would hinder your ministry. That's what I'm thinking. But there's one bit of advice that he gave me that I will never forget as long as I live. There was an issue with, I'm just going to be honest here. Like I said, not going to name names, but positions, oh well, they're free game. There was a deacon, and there was an issue with, I don't want to assume things, because we all know what assume means, and I'm not going to say it, but we know what it means. And there was jealousy involved. There had to be jealousy involved. And when this deacon who is filling in between the previous guy and myself says, hey, I want to finish teaching through Genesis. And I say, well, I'll consider it. We'll go from here. When they're in Genesis 25 and there's 50 chapters in Genesis, that takes up half a year at least. So it's like, we can't finish that. I'm here. I've got a job to do. I'm going to feel guilty. Y'all paying me to do something, and then I can't do it because I'm letting you do it. That's just not how I operate. So there was some tension there, and I go up to the pastor and we sit down. We're having a meeting. We're talking, and I explained this to him. And his advice was, this particular person had a trade, and the pastor says, go to this person's, place of business, and just go in and start doing what they do. And he said, what are they going to say to you? I'm like, they're going to tell me to stop. He said, exactly. They're going to tell you, you need to stop that. You don't know what you're doing. You can't fix that. And you proceed to tell them, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll learn as I'm going, and I'll just wing it for now. And he's like, what are they going to do? I'm like, they're going to come back there and take whatever tool or instrument or piece of equipment out of my hands and say, no, you're not going to do that. And he said, that's when you look at them and say, you know what? You're right. I don't know what or how to do what you do for a living, so I'm not going to do it. You don't know how to be a pastor, so you don't need to be teaching it. Let me do my job and you do your job. And I told him, I was like, there is no way I could be that big of a jerk. And he said, well, that's just a suggestion. You don't have to listen to it. I was like, okay. And he said, the other option is just leave it alone. It'll go away. Wow. I went from one bit of horrible advice to another bit of horrible advice, because we let it go. We let it ride, and it did not go away. In fact, it festered to the point of supposedly the deacon's wife called a head deacon and was complaining about it. Things were construed. I never got the full story out of it, but I told this head deacon, hey, look, the pastor said, just forget about it, let it ride, it'll go away, don't worry about it. And he said the same thing that I had initially thought may happen, and that was that it didn't go away. So shame on me for listening to the advice of a senior pastor who I thought I could trust. Anyways, there comes this meeting, and I am starting to realize that this deacon's wife, who had been helping him fill in until I was hired, had in her mind that she was still going to be able to help. And I'm absolutely, if you want to volunteer and help with youth, children, whatever ministry is going on at the time that I'm overseeing, by all means, I'll figure out a way to use you. But you can't be my equal. You can't be my right-hand person, because being married and being in the ministry, my right-hand person is my spouse. That's my go-to person. That's the person I lean on. That's the person I confide in. That's the person that I vent to. That's the person that is there with me 24/7, basically. You can't have that role when your husband is not in this particular position, the associate children's youth pastor. You just can't. That doesn't work. That's not a good dynamic. That dynamic could lead to a lot of speculations that would not be positive for either couple. So obviously I cannot have this particular female being my equal in ministry and being my ministry partner. That's not going to fly. So all this tension starts to boil between her and my wife, and then I'm kind of in the middle of all this stuff, and we have no idea that it's getting here until the deacon says, look, we need to have this meeting. It's okay, that's fine, have a meeting. So they schedule the meeting. Granted, I was called to ministry in 2010. I've been on staff in ministry since 2014, but still I'm pretty green behind the ears. Even now, I don't know a lot of stuff because of all the experiences I've had. It's been quick transitions from one place to another, so on and so forth. So it's been hard to learn, and I've not had real good people to learn under. So I'm still trying to learn these things, and later on I find out I should never allow my wife to be in a church meeting without me being present. So it ends up being a deacon, a moderator, the head deacon, the moderator, my wife, and this other deacon's wife. And I'm, over, it's a Wednesday night before service, I'm over, hanging out with the kids with that other deacon. Everything's cool between us right now. Things kind of boiled down between us, or not boiled down, but, things have died down between us. Little do we know that it was boiling up across the street. And I get a call from my wife, and she's just absolutely crying. I said, I need you. So I leave and go over there and trying to console her. And it boils down to these three basically attack her in my office. Verbally, she says she can't even get a word in edgewise. The deacon's doing all the talking. The other deacon's wife is just sitting there not really saying anything. My wife comes in trying to be calm, cool, collected, has written out things that she wants to talk about, issues that she has seen that has came up with this other deacon's wife. And it was just, they railroaded her. So I come in and I'm mad. I'm livid. I'm mad as a hornet. So I come into my office. I'm like, what in the world is going on in here? And the deacon says, you need to lose the bass in your voice. And I'm thinking, oh, no, you didn't, bud. You ain't my father. You are not going to talk to me like that. The only person can talk to me like that is my earthly father and my heavenly father. Nobody else is going to talk to me like that. So I tell them the best thing they can do is everybody else get up and get out of my office. My office, get out. So the ladies leave. The deacon, the moderator, and myself stay in there. We start talking through these things. I realize this is going nowhere. And it's just, I'm dumbfounded. And what kills me is it's Wednesday night. We got service going on. my wife has to go over there and lead the service because I'm still in this unscheduled meeting. And it's just, it's baloney. So I have a choice to make. And over the next couple of days, it's hard. I'm back and forth. I'm calling my mentor. He's trying to help me with these things. And he says, look, son, this is a hill you're going to die on. He said, you either can stand up now for your wife and be a man of integrity, or you can wait 2 months from now and they'll fire you. They'll find a reason to fire you. I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm dying on this hill, then I'm going to die fighting. And so I do. I tell them I'm done. I'm not putting up with this. I'm turning in my resignation. Y'all can basically take it and shove it. And now I said I may say some things on here that you don't agree with. And keep in mind, I'm a country boy, and I'm blunt, and I'm honest, and that's what this whole podcast is about, is honesty, transparency, and legitimacy of where I've been and where I come from. So I was just like, the heck with this, man. I'm done. And so my mentor's helping me write my resignation letter, and this is how petty they are. So I say in the resignation letter, this deacon and this deacon, or this deacon and this former deacon, rotated off deacon, whatever you want to call him, were in this meeting where I was not present, but it has came to my attention that I can no longer effectively lead here because of this situation. But I have asked to speak to leadership. This was the other kicker. They said leadership has decided that your wife can no longer help out because of how she reacted, because she got up and walked out of that meeting to call me, her husband, to come help her. Those were not actions of a pastor's wife. You know what? You called me to ministry. You didn't call her to ministry. She helps me. She's not here to help you. So that was a red flag, and I'm glad I got out of there. But I'm going through this process of trying to figure out, all right, who's saying this? Who is leadership? Let me talk to them. Never would tell me who leadership was. Let me talk to the pastor. He said that he wasn't going to get involved, that we needed to handle it. So here's the positive out of all of this negative. I learned to never let deacons run the church. They can help, but I ultimately feel called to be a senior pastor. And that's one thing that I am not going to allow. I am not going to allow the church to become a deacon-ran church, because then as the pastor, you don't have any say. Now, I know that the pastor needs to be accountable to the deacons or to an elder board. Pastor can be on the elder board with some deacons and some lay members where there is a wide variety of input. But when the pastor is never there, not present, probably seen the dude maybe 30, 35 times in the period that I was there. But for this, I'm trying to be careful with what I say, because I don't want to say sorry excuse, but this bad example of a pastor, or a so-called pastor, that can't even talk to his associate pastor to help him through this situation, man, that's dirty. That's like dog dirty. I mean, that's bad. You don't pull that garbage. That's why I'm telling you, I had no clue all this cock and bull I was going to have to go through here. So anyways, I ended up writing out this resignation letter. These guys know about it. I asked to speak to leadership, couldn't speak to leadership. In the meantime, my wife and this other deacon's wife called each other and have reconciled. But I am still being forced to step down or be fired later. They didn't like that. So I revised it. I took out a few things. Still left in this deacon, this guy. They knew what was going on. They were in this meeting. Yada, yada, yada. My wife and this other lady have reconciled. We're good to go now. But still resigning. Still nothing. So like 4 revisions later, my mentor was like, look, you can either take the money and run, or he personally told me that he would stand his ground and say, nope, this is the letter that you are reading to the congregation. They're going to know why. And if you don't give me a severance package, then oh well, that's on you. But I'm sitting there thinking, I got to make sure I support my family. So I said, you know what, fine. Say I'm leaving for personal reasons. Never again will I do that, because that is open for interpretation. I have no contacts from this church anymore. Really can't use them as a reference, which really stinks because, I don't try to purposely burn bridges, but the situations I find myself in, it's like, you just got to cut ties and be done with it. Cut it out. That's it. I hope I don't get dinged for copyright for saying that. Uncle Joey, don't do anything, or whichever uncle you are. It's just, it's baloney. It's garbage. So I'm done there. I'm just like, whatever, man. So finally it comes, all this goes back and forth. And finally on Friday, I'm like, no, we're done. I'll come up there. I'll clean up my office, yada, yada, yada. I go up and clean up my office when nobody else is there because I don't trust anybody. Get all my stuff, leave. And then it's like, all right, well, we're going to meet. We want the computer back. Okay, fine, I'm cleaning it. No, don't clean the computer. Oh, yes, I'm cleaning the computer because it has my personal stuff on it as well. So wipe that bad boy clean. Give it back to them. I'm done. Got camp coming up. That's on y'all. Y'all chose to do this kind of stuff. Whatever. And my mentor said in the final meeting, he said, don't talk to them. Don't shake their hands. Just go there. Give them your resignation letter and give them their stuff back and then be done. So the one guy go up. I actually do tell him bye. And then the head deacon reaches out his hand, and I'm sitting there, I'm going to quote what my mentor said to say. No, I only shake the hand of real men. Oh, he got so ticked. And he was like, I can't believe you're going to do me like that. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. So shake his hand. No need to contact me anymore. Dude calls me a couple weeks later asking if I want some NASCAR stuff. Really? No, I don't ever want to see you again. Like I said, though, that was then. I was heated. I was mad. And now it's like, I'm over it. Whatever. That was petty. It's stupid. It really doesn't matter in the large scheme of things because it doesn't do anything for the kingdom. So why hold on to it? So that was that experience in a nutshell. I could probably tell some more crap that went on, but it's just like, it's not even worth it. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there was one. There was one thing where in a meeting, a volunteer had gotten upset because I had asked all the volunteers to not come for a little while because the students weren't coming to me. They were going to all these volunteers that they were used to. They weren't getting to know me. So I'm like, hey, look, cut out the volunteers for a little while. Just let it be my wife and myself. This kind of like, like an acoustic setting almost, like let's get to know each other. Let's bond. Let's become friends. I'm the guy I want you to come to whenever you need something. When you get in trouble and you gotten, arrested and you're going to call your parents, you want to call me first. So I'm there to tell your parents why you got arrested with you or whatever. Come up, bail you out of jail, so to speak, kind of thing. I wanted to be that guy in the community. So I started getting that relationship with these kids. And I was almost there, and then a parent pitches a fit. Funny thing is, when he was in the room as a volunteer, his kid didn't say a word. The nights he didn't serve, his kid was volunteering to read scripture, was praying, doing prayer requests. Hey, look, I get it. I was the same way. When my parents would volunteer or substitute for Sunday school, I didn't say a word. I didn't answer questions. I didn't do nothing. When my buddy's mom, our normal Sunday school teacher, was there, I answered stuff. So I totally get it. But it's like, why make a big deal about that? So he pitches a fit, gets all mad, runs his mouth. Pastor says, look, we need to have a meeting. So it's the pastor, myself, head deacon, and this parent. And I pray, Lord, hold my tongue. I don't say a word during this meeting. I just let him just beat me down, chew me out, and all this stuff. And when it's all said and done, he realizes he's in the wrong. We make small talk. And then everything's cool. He gets up and leaves. I stay behind. This senior pastor says, I wanted you to experience this. It was good for you to go through this with me in here to support you, with a deacon in here to support you if you needed it. You held your own. You did a really good job. And the deacon, the same deacon that tells me to take the bass out of my voice later on, says, I don't know how you sit there and listen to that. I wanted to get up and knock the guy out for you. I later on told that deacon he better be glad I was in the ministry. Otherwise, I would have flipped the desk over and come after him after he had met with my wife during that meeting. And he was like, well, that's kind of scary. I'm like, well, you wanted to knock a guy out because he was airing his grievances out against me. So how is that any different? I just said flip the desk over. I didn't say I was going to punch you. I just said flip the desk over. He said he would have knocked the guy out. Whatever. I don't care. It don't matter. So I go through all those different things there. But like I said, what I learned from that experience was to be present as a pastor. Don't just come in and preach on Sunday morning, Sunday nights, and Wednesday nights if your church offers those type services or those number of services. And, be there. But be there for your staff. Be there for your congregation. And in your absence, your church becomes a deacon-ran church where you only do 3 things. No visitation. Ended up bringing on another volunteer, retired pastor to do visitations. So what was he doing? I learned, don't do that. Whatever I do when I become a senior pastor, don't let the deacons run a church. Make sure that I am there with my group, my circle of influence, that I have sound counsel from, that I have godly counsel from, that they are people that I know are going to have the best interest of not only myself as the pastor, but also the church as a whole. That's what I learned from that experience. So, again, like I said, try not to make these things shot interviews or anything like that. Just trying to share with you my experiences, and sorry if you hear the clicking. I'm trying to shift screens around, but that's it. That's how it went. It was a mess. It was a joke. But hey, sometimes you go through those things. But that's it. Done with this one. But before we go, I want to do my thing. It's kind of become I don't want to say a trademark, but it's kind of become my thing. So I want to try my best to close out every podcast like this. I try to close out most live things I do or most things I post. Just kind of to remind people, because maybe you don't hear every day that somebody loves you. So I want you to know, I want you to take care. God bless you. And I love you, but Jesus loves you more. That's my thing. I love you, but I could never love you as much as Jesus does. So until next time, thanks for joining me here on Behind the Desk with JK.